The Subaru WRX has always been an affordable enthusiast car. With its turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, all-wheel drive, and available CVT, it makes it a very dailyable car as well. So what if you wanted to take your WRX on a road trip? How efficient would it be? Well, today, we're going to find out. This is Chris here with Daily Motor, and today we've got the real-world highway fuel economy test on the 2022 Subaru WRX with a CVT. Before we get started, let's hop out and take a walk around this car. Now, just last week, we were driving the manual car, and I had the time of my life in that thing. It was such a blast to drive, and I was honestly looking forward to driving the CVT because I've never really understood why Subaru offers their performance car with a CVT when you could, on the other hand, get a 6-speed manual. But I don't know, it still doesn't really make too much sense to me. The CVT's okay, but it's really not my favorite thing. But maybe it'll help in the efficiency department. So that's why we're here today, is to find out what sort of fuel economy this thing gets. And well, I've got to say, in this red paint, it looks pretty good against these fall leaves. The looks of this car have grown on me quite a bit. And this is also the GT trim car with adaptive dampers and Recaro seats. Pretty neat looking. If you want to learn more about this Subaru WRX, there will be links in the description to all of our other videos, including a full review, a sound system test, and more. But let's go ahead and get started with the test. So you may be wondering, why do we run this fuel economy test? Well, the EPA's fuel economy test, which gives this Subaru WRX CVT 25 MPG on the highway, only averages 48 miles per hour. We know that some people like to take their cars on actual all-American road trips. So what we do is go out 50 miles and back 50 miles, averaging 70 miles per hour for a more real-world figure. A couple of things worth noting for today's test. Outside temperature is 49 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to be running the climate control in the cabin at 73 degrees auto. Tire pressures have been set to their factory door placard indicated 33 psi front and 32 psi rear cold. And we'll be using the same gas pump both times, using the same 3-click filling method to get the most accurate results possible. All right, let's go ahead and shut it off, hop out, and grab our first fill. 6.5 gallons going in there for our first fill. Of course, using 93 octane premium fuel today, as that's what the WRX requires, and it's what EPA tested this car on in their test. Now, for some reason, this car defaults to sport mode when you start it, so we're going to go ahead and switch that into comfort. We've got a number of drive modes on this WRX GT that you don't get on some of the lower trim cars. We're also going to go ahead and get our climate control on 73. We're going to go ahead and get this on auto. How do you work the Subaru climate? There you go, auto. Okay, cool. We are on 73 auto. Cool. And finally, before we set off, just one more thing. We've got to reset our trip, which will reset our fuel economy. We're in comfort mode. All right, everything is set. We are good to hit the road here. So as I mentioned, a number of different drive modes: comfort, normal, sport, sport sharp, and individual available on this car. I'm going to run in comfort mode today. I think that's going to be the most economical, as it's going to be the most chill drive mode, not going to rev the car too high. I think that'll give us the best results. I'm going to go ahead and merge on the highway here. Take it nice and easy up to speed. This Honda Pilot's been here for a couple of weeks. You all have seen it in our past couple fuel economy tests. Now, the purpose of this test is not to hypermile. I'm simply going to merge onto the highway, set the cruise control to a GPS indicated 72 miles per hour, and just drive to get the most real-world results possible. I'm quite curious, actually, to run this test today because I've never really experienced the Subaru EyeSight, which is this driving assist. Actually, before I get distracted, let's set our cruise to 72, see if that matches up with the GPS. Looks like it is. Come on, car, slow down. There you go. All right, cool, 72. EyeSight is on with steering assist and everything else. We've got a little indicator up here with a green light that tells me EyeSight is on. And from what I've experienced so far driving this car around for the past about 24 hours is that eyesight is not as good as I was hoping for, but this will be the true test, driving 100 miles in this car to see how it is. Under first impressions, I don't think I'm going to like these Recaro seats for the trip either. They do feel a little bit hard and awkward. I haven't really been able to get a good seating position in this car this week. And there's a ton of things in here that are throwing me off because I loved the manual car so much. Just had the base seats, obviously manual transmission, no eyesight, nothing like that. Didn't even have any drive modes. And that car was such a treat. So having this slightly higher spec WRX, I don't know that I like it as much, but we should, oh, and you know, eyesight finds any opportunity to beep at you that it can find. Anyways though, I'm gonna go ahead, get settled in, try and figure out how to work this massive infotainment display, which if you're curious to learn more, we'll have a separate video on the infotainment as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and settle in, get to driving, and I'll catch up with you guys once I am towards the end of my journey. Wrapping up our time here in the Subaru WRX, getting off the highway a little bit early because a state cop decided to pull over a semi-truck and cause a bunch of traffic. So unfortunately, with a real-world fuel economy test, sometimes you have real-world scenarios like that that make it get cut a little bit short. But indicated on the car right now, 28.5 MPG for our test as far as the car says. But we're gonna go ahead, drive over to the gas station now, get our final fill, wrap it up, and see what this car actually got. As far as highway impressions on this thing, it was a pretty good ride. The Recaros weren't as hard and terrible as I thought they were gonna be, and eyesight did okay. Of course, it's not up to par with a Kia or a Hyundai system, but it did all right for what it was. Infotainment system behaved fine as well, but mostly because I was just using Apple CarPlay, so no real issues there, and honestly it wasn't too bad of an experience. I could see myself road tripping this car. Of course I would prefer just the regular seats in this thing, but their Recaros, they did okay. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull in here, get my final fill, and I'll catch up with you once I have brimmed the tank. And 2.125 gallons in there for our final fill. All right, let's hop in the car. So today's trip, which was cut a little bit short, was 62.15 miles. We'll go ahead and divide that by the 2.125 gallons of gas that we put into the WRX, and that gives us 29.2 MPG. Pretty consistent with what the car was reading out. Car was reading out 28.5 at the end of our trip, or somewhere around there. So I would say that this is quite accurate. 29 MPG achieved in the WRX. Now remember that EPA on this car was 25, so beating EPA there by 4 MPG. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply this by the 16.6 gallon fuel tank here in this car. And that gives you an effective highway cruising range of 480 miles. Also, pretty good performance here, pretty decently sized tank. The only downfall here is that you do have to run premium fuel in this WRX, but, you know, is what it is. Now, this isn't quite as good as some other cars in this class. For example, the Civic Si and even some of the Hyundai N cars get into the 30s. So definitely not the best performing car. To give this car a little bit of a break, it is all-wheel drive, so it's got a little bit more work to do in the drivetrain department. But I think overall 29 MPG isn't too bad, and I'm just happy that this car was able to beat EPA. So 29 MPG, 480 miles of effective highway cruising range, and that'll wrap it up here for the WRX CVT fuel economy test. If you want to learn more about the WRX, we will have links in the description to other videos that we filmed on the car. But otherwise, thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been Chris here with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on. you.